Economic recessions have little to no correlation in real estate market prices. I'm going to explain why that statement is true in this video. I'm going to go over the past 7 recessions that the United States has gone through. I'm going to talk about what the real estate prices were at the beginning of the recession, and then I'm going to talk about the real estate prices were at the end of the recession. Now, of course, sometimes the real estate went down a little bit, but as you will see, in a majority of recessions, the real estate market stays steady or goes up. We are in an economic recession right now. I know they're trying to redo the definition of a recession, but the GDP and the market and things are on a downward spin, as is the real estate market. So this and what we're going through now is different, just like every recession is different. But I'm trying to take some fear out of you and show you that just because there's a recession and the market's shifting does not mean the end of the world. Another thing you're going to notice in this video is the prices of real estate have gone up so much over the past 50 years, it's not even funny. That's one of the benefits of owning real estate, is the price is gonna do this over a period of time. If you don't believe me, this first recession we're talking about that started in 1973 to 1975, the average price of a house was $34,000. That was less than 50 years ago, and the average price was $34,000. I think the average price is 10 times that. So owning real estate over a long period of time is always a good investment. Now back to what the recession does or doesn't do with real estate. This recession is the oil crisis recession of 1973. OPEC, who prices oil, quadrupled the prices at this time. So oil, which goes into gas and several other things, went up extensively, which caused a recession. Now, it was a pretty long recession. It lasted from November of 1973 to March of 1975. Guess what real estate did? While the economy and everything was dipping, and oil, which is pretty much in almost anything that moves, was quadrupled in price, real estate went from $34,000 on average, an average house, to $39,000, which is a big jump. That's almost a 20% jump in that time, in that about 2-year period, because recessions don't always affect the real estate market in a negative way. The next recession we're going to move on to is in 1980. There was inflation caused by the 1970s with oil and prices going up, and that actually oil price as well as other things going up to combat with the oil price going up caused inflation, which is similar to what we're doing now, just on a bigger level. So this recession happened in 1980, and we're going to call this the initial inflation recession. And the Fed did what they're doing now. They raised interest rates. So interest rates went up. We were in a recession, both happening at the same time, which is happening now, but the average real estate house went from $64,000 to $65,000. So in this year period, it didn't go up a ton, but it went up while we were in a recession and while interest rates were spiking. Then we got out of the recession. We were doing pretty good for a while, but it wasn't a long-term fix. So from mid-1981 to the end of 1982, we were in another recession that was basically just a continuation of the last recession. It was because of inflation and because of interest rates and the US government tightening things up a little bit. And real estate at this time went from $69,000 to $69,000. It pretty much held steady, as you can see by the chart. So there was a lot going on in the 80s. I think everybody on here that follows real estate knows that interest rates were insane in the 80s, but the average house price pretty much held steady through this recession. This next one happened in the early 1990s, and I sound like a broken record here, but the reason for the recession was the increase in interest rates because of inflation. That's what we're going through now, right? Isn't that what everybody's freaking out about? So this has happened a lot in the past. And in this time, the average house in real estate went from $117,000 to $119,000. So it slightly went up, not a ton. We're talking, probably 1% or so. So not a ton, but it went up a little bit. And if you haven't noticed, real estate at the beginning of this whole thing was starting at around $34,000, $35,000, and about 15 years later, went from 1975 to 1990, where we're at right now. The average house price is $117,000 to $119,000. Real estate goes up over time. Even with inflation, even with high interest rates, real estate goes up. As you've seen by these charts, of course, there is short-term dips and short-term downs, which is kind of what we're dealing with now, but it's almost like the quicker the down, the quicker the up. Real estate always recovers because it is a necessity. And then the turn of the century and the dot-com boom that completely obliterated the economy for a while. And this one affected the real estate market. This is the first one that actually had a substantial effect on real estate. Maybe it's because real estate had gone up so much like I just talked about. Maybe because there wasn't enough supply. I'm not gonna dig into the minute details of it because this one, real estate was affected. The average price we're starting at the beginning of the recession is $179,000. Which is a lot more than it was just 10 years earlier in 1990. So it's 179,000. And during this recession, it actually went down to 172,000. So even in a big swing, a big dip, the biggest dip we had seen up to this point, because of a recession in the real estate cycle, it had gone down $7,000 on average. Now, I think this is a good time to point out that, of course, some markets were hit more, some markets were hit less. We're talking about an average price on a house in the United States. So it went down $7,000, which over a 6-month period is pretty substantial, but again, not the end of the world. I don't have the math right in front of me, but it's probably 3 or 4% dip, so not that bad. All right, on to the bubble of all bubbles, the 2008 recession or Great Recession, whatever you want to call it. Now, this chart may be a little misleading because it shows house prices going down, and then the recession was over and house prices didn't go back up, they continued to go down. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat like 08 wasn't a big deal, because it was. But during the recession, which is the point of this video, house prices went from 234,000 at the beginning of that to 222,000. So a pretty substantial dip in a short period of time, hence the Great Recession and the whole world economy was affected. It's interesting to note, though, that this one was different than all the other recessions. This one was caused by people that having loans on houses they could not afford, subprime loans given out to people, and a lot of really bad loans out there. So this was not really caused by inflation or high interest rates like all the other recessions that I just talked about and like the recession we're going through now was caused by. So it should be kind of comforting that this recession that we're going through now is like the other recessions that real estate wasn't affected by. The one recession that really affected real estate was caused by something completely different than we're going through now. So I do know that house prices are dipping right now and that interest rates are up and inflation is up, but what we're going through is normal, I guess is the point of all of this. What we're going through has happened before, it's going to happen again, but buying real estate and catching on that curve of houses going up and up and up and up over time, like you've seen if you've been paying attention to this video, is always a good thing to do. Invest in real estate and hold on to that asset. Manage it properly and over time through normal inflation, through debt pay down, through cash flow, through depreciation, through all the things that go along with owning real estate assets, you will become wealthy. There will be recessions, there will be dips, there will be a lot that goes on through the life of you owning that asset. But buy real estate and over time you will create wealth. That's my whole purpose of being on social media, is to show you that through my actions, through what I'm doing, and through what I talk about on social media. So if you appreciate that, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to this channel, follow me on all my social medias, and hopefully I can help you make 2023 the best year for you yet. See you on the next one.